Hey guys, Zack here, and as of today, Jurassic Park officially turns 30 years old. Jurassic Park is a movie that means a lot to me. Not only is it my favorite movie of all time, but Jurassic Park influenced me in several different ways. It made me interested in dinosaurs again. It made me interested in biology, filmmaking as well, and overall, there were many childhood movies that I loved to death, growing up as a kid, but Jurassic Park is the one that really made me like who I am today. Um, I didn't see the movie when it first came out in '93. I wasn't really alive at that point, so obviously I couldn't. But I was able to experience the 20th anniversary 3D re-release of the movie, and after seeing it in theaters, yeah, that movie definitely changed me. And ever since then, Jurassic Park has always been my favorite movie of all time, and just a movie that means more to me than literally any other movie out there. So, yeah, to celebrate Jurassic Park's 30th birthday, I figured I'd kind of make a review about it and just kind of talk about why I love Jurassic Park so much. And, yeah, I don't really have a whole lot else to say, so let's just get right into this. Before I get into this video, I just want to say that this video is for the people who have seen Jurassic Park. If for some reason you haven't seen Jurassic Park, which I don't really know how that's possible, but I mean, to be fair, I have met people who haven't seen Jurassic Park before. It's kind of scary. But anyway, if you haven't seen Jurassic Park before, then please go watch Jurassic Park and come back here because this video will contain spoilers. So if you haven't seen Jurassic Park for some reason, go watch it. This is like a podcast type video, so yeah, I'll put up like pictures here and there throughout this video, but this video is mostly for the people who have seen Jurassic Park, which again should be, most of the people watching this video. So, yeah. Anyway, really quick, I just want to talk about the characters. First on my list, Dr. Alan Grant. I love Dr. Grant. He is easily my favorite character in this movie. Of course, Dr. Grant is the paleontologist, and yeah, iconic character. I think Sam Neill, he's played by. Sam Neill does a great job portraying the character. He's supposed to be that character that everyone's supposed to look up to because, he's the dinosaur expert, essentially. So, yeah, he's supposed to be the character that, kids watching the movie look up to. You see, that's one of the many great things about Jurassic Park, just the sense of wonder. Obviously, kids love dinosaurs. So, this movie is sort of, seen through the eyes of, the wonder of children being fascinated with dinosaurs, and that's seen with characters like Tim. But we'll talk more about Tim later. But yeah, Dr. Grant I think does a great job of filling the role of the character that everyone's supposed to look up to. Like I said, Sam Neill does a great job playing him, and overall, yeah, Dr. Grant is a great character and easily my favorite character from Jurassic Park. Now we have Ellie Sattler. She is the paleobotanist in Jurassic Park, and she works with Dr. Grant as well as has a relationship with him, which I'll talk more about that later. But anyway, Dr. Ellie Sattler, she is played by Laura Dern, and I think that she plays the character very well. Ellie Sattler is a very likable character, written very strongly. And yeah, Ellie Sattler is a great character. Again, Alan Grant, he's my favorite character in Jurassic Park, but Ellie Sattler, she's great too. Now we have Ian Malcolm, who I absolutely love. Ian Malcolm is played by Jeff Goldblum, and he is the K.I.tician in the movie. He's essentially the guy that repeatedly tells John Hammond that what he's doing is wrong, and, it's going to go horribly wrong. And again, I think Jeff Goldblum plays that character perfectly. In the book, he was described to be like a rock star, and Jeff Goldblum has that, perfect balance of being, witty, while also not being too overly animated. I bring up that because originally, instead of Jeff Goldblum, it was actually going to be Jim Carrey playing Ian Malcolm, which I love Jim Carrey, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he would have fit Jurassic Park whatsoever. I think he is just way too overly animated, and I don't think he would have worked well. But with Jeff Goldblum, he has that perfect amount of wit, and he also has that, ability to still be serious and still, not be too overly animated like Jim Carrey. Like I said, I love Jim Carrey, but Jeff Goldblum was the better choice here. So Ian Malcolm is another great character. I'm going to say that a lot, really quick. I just want to say, there is not a single character in Jurassic Park that I dislike. I pretty much like every character in the movie. So I'm going to sound like a broken record at some point, but just know, like, I do love all the characters. And of course, John Hammond, who is another character that I love, obviously. He's great. He's played by Richard Attenborough, the brother of David Attenborough, who's now narrating Prehistoric Planet. So it's actually really cool that both Richard Attenborough and David Attenborough have, like, some sort of, like, strong relation with, like, dinosaur media in some way, because Jurassic Park was, like, revolutionary for its time and really changed paleontology, and Prehistoric Planet is kind of doing the same by pushing the boundaries as far as, like, the public perception of dinosaurs go. So it is really sweet that they're both, like, they both kind of have a hand at, like, influencing dinosaur media. So yeah, Richard Attenborough, of course, does a great job playing John Hammond. He has that sort of like a wondrous feel to him. So, like, he has, like, that sense of wonder, like a kid, and I think Richard Attenborough captures that perfectly. Of course, he's the founder of not only Jurassic Park but InGen as well, and in the movie, InGen is the company responsible for bringing the dinosaurs back to life. And yeah, John Hammond is another great character in the cast of characters in Jurassic Park. So yeah, I do love John Hammond. Tim and Lex. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Tim and Lex, well, mostly Tim, but yeah, Tim is supposed to be the character that, he's supposed to relate to the audience, the kids watching Jurassic Park, because, he is obsessed with dinosaurs, and of course, they have a, paleontologist, so of course, he looks up to, Dr. Grant. Lex isn't too much into dinosaurs, she's, a computer nerd, but, still, Lex is still great, and honestly, the only real reason why Tim and Lex are here is so, Dr. Grant can go through his character arc, because in the beginning of the movie, Dr. Grant, he hates kids. Doesn't like kids at all, but towards the end of Jurassic Park, he learns to, appreciate kids, because, he, is protecting Tim and Lex after the T-Rex scene, so he's, like, getting them through Jurassic Park, keeping them safe, and during that, he learns to appreciate kids and, go through that character arc. And yeah, Tim and Lex are still likable, but still, yeah, I'm more so talking about Dr. Grant now. But still, Tim and Lex are great characters, and I really like them. Now we have Donald Gennaro. Now, Donald Gennaro, he is the lawyer in Jurassic Park, and I do like Gennaro, but if I had to pick a least favorite character, it would probably be Gennaro, because there aren't really too many, like, things that stand out with him. He's more so the guy who's, like, kind of on John Hammond's side as far as, like, opening Jurassic Park, and yeah, there's nothing really too noteworthy about his character, Like I said, I still love Gennaro, but again, like, out of the other characters in the movie, he's probably my least favorite, but I digress. Anyway, Robert Muldoon. Now, I love Robert Muldoon. He is great. Like I said in my review for The Lost World Jurassic Park, I do like Roland Tembo a little bit more, but let's not discredit Robert Muldoon, because Robert Muldoon is still a great character. He is the game warden in Jurassic Park, so he's the guy who, takes care of the dinosaurs that escapes. He goes out and, like, tries to hunt the raptors, and he tragically gets killed. But, regardless, Robert Muldoon is still a great character, and yeah, he is played by Bob Peck. I believe that was his name. Unfortunately, he passed away. God bless his soul, but still, he did a great job playing the character, and yeah, Robert Muldoon is another very noteworthy character in Jurassic Park. Now, Dennis Nedry. Now, Dennis Nedry is the, he's the computer guy. I forget, like, the name of, like, that specific role, but he, has a hand in, like, not the IT, or, I don't know, I'm getting off topic here, but no, he is the guy who basically kind of controls, like, not the, like, the only guy, but one of the people who controls, like, the power of Jurassic Park, he makes sure that, like, things are working properly, he makes sure that, things aren't going haywire, and he inevitably, turns the power off so he can, collect the dinosaur embryos and deliver them to the rival company of InGen, Biosyn, because Louis Dodgson, he's not in the movie a lot, and he was in Dominion a lot, but let's not talk about Jurassic World Dominion. We're here to talk about something positive. He's here to, take a select number of dinosaur embryos and give them to Dodgson, who is the owner of his own company, Biosyn. So yeah, and Biosyn is InGen's rival company. So yeah, so Dennis, he's like kind of like sabotaging InGen and like everyone else at Jurassic Park, but still, Dennis Nedry is played by Wayne Knight, and I think he plays the character perfectly. He's very funny. He has that he's kind of like Ian Malcolm in the sense where like he's very like, I don't want to say witty, but he has like, he's kind of a smartass, particularly towards John. And like there's a scene in the movie where they like kind of like bicker towards each other, and like it's just so good, man. Like Wayne Knight does a great job playing the character. So yeah, again, Dennis Nedry, another highlight in the in Jurassic Park. The last character I want to talk about is Ray Arnold. Of course, he is the other person in the computer room who makes sure that everything is functioning properly, and he is played by Samuel L. Jackson. And Samuel L. Jackson's great. I love Samuel L. Jackson. I think he does a perfect job playing Ray Arnold in the movie. Another fun fact, in the book to Jurassic Park, he was actually named John Arnold, but they changed it to Ray Arnold because people would have been confusing him with John Hammond. So yeah, he was changed to Ray Arnold, and I think that was for the better because, I don't know, I think Ray Arnold just kind of rolls off the tongue more than John Arnold, but that's just me. But regardless, Ray Arnold is still a very likable character, and I do like him a lot. So, yeah. There's also Henry Wu, but he doesn't really, he's really just there to tell Dr. Grant that they're breeding velociraptors. And, yeah. I know Jurassic World kind of tried to turn him into this big, like, supervillain, and again, let's talk about something positive. Jurassic Park is something I love, so let's not talk about Jurassic World. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my notes on the characters in Jurassic Park. Some other things I want to talk about as far as the key elements that go to, why I love Jurassic Park. First of all, the soundtrack, pretty much perfect. There is not a single bad track in this movie's soundtrack. Of course, the soundtrack was done by John Williams, and he absolutely knocks it out of the park. Every track in this movie is a banger. Obviously we have the Jurassic Park theme song, which that alone is like one of the most iconic pieces of like, orchestrals in a movie. We have a bunch of other great tracks too, like My Friend the Brachiosaurus, A Tree for a Bed, Dennis Steals the Embryos, and Journey to the Island. Like, all of those tracks are great. So, yeah, the score by John Williams for this movie, pretty much perfection. No complaints whatsoever. The sound design, again, just like with the soundtrack, absolutely perfection. They used real animals to sort of, create the sounds for all the dinosaurs, So, we have the T-Rex, which the T-Rex roar alone is like one of the most iconic, like, sounds in cinema history. We've seen that, or like, you can't hear a sound. We've heard that sound in like several other things, like outside of Jurassic Park, just in like several pieces of like, pop culture as a, as a whole. And overall, like, the T-Rex roar, like I said, is very iconic. The hissing of the raptors sounds great, all of the sounds for the raptors, great. The Brachiosaurus sound great. The Dilophosaurus sounds great. The Triceratops. The sound design for this movie is phenomenal. Like I said, they used like real animals to, create the sounds for the dinosaurs, and they all just sound great. Everything here is just on point, and it's perfect. It is just so perfect. So yeah, the sound design for this movie, perfect. The writing in the movie, again, it's iconic. There are so many great lines from this movie. One of my favorites being, you were so preoccupied with whether or not you could, but you never stopped to think if you should. That was from Ian Malcolm. That's one of my favorite lines in the movie. Of course, you have iconic lines like Must Go Faster, Clever Girl by Robert Muldoon. Of course, the scene with Dr. Grant, they travel in herds. They do travel in herds, that's great. And of course, John Hammond's welcome to Jurassic Park. You know, like, so many great lines in Jurassic Park. It's just perfect. So the writing, again, is perfect. The cinematography, again, perfect. I'm gonna say that a lot. This movie is pretty much perfect, you know? And that goes for the cinematography, too. The cinematography, you know, is perfect, you know? There's that scene where they, you know, see the Brachiosaurus for the first time. Like, that shot where, like, the Brachiosaurus is, like, turning its head to, like, take a bite out of, like, the branch behind it. It looks great. The iconic shot of the T-Rex breaking out of its enclosure. Of course, all the shots with the raptors in the kitchen, and just so many iconic shots in this movie. It's not even funny. Yeah, so the cinematography for this movie, perfect. Like it's peak. You know, I'm sorry, it's just amazing. But anyway, one last thing I want to talk about, the special effects. They are dated at certain points, but for the most part, the special effects in this movie are phenomenal. Like, the animatronics looks great, you know, like, the T-Rex looks just beautiful. And, of course, this was one of the first movies to, like, use CGI in, like, a big way. You know, like, after Jurassic Park, we started seeing CGI in, like, so many other things. You know, and, of course, like, it's a little dated at points. Like, the Brachiosaurus at the beginning of the movie, like, the Brachiosaurus doesn't look amazing as far as, like, its CGI. Like, you know, that CGI just doesn't really look too good. There's a part during the Gallimimus scene where, the Gallimimus actually kind of clips through the T-Rex. And just, like, minor, like, you know, things like that, you know, makes the CGI really dated. Like, some shots, like the T-Rex scenes, like, you know, at night, like, the T-Rex looks really good. Like, that CGI model. But then there are points where the CGI doesn't look too good. So, yeah, like, the special effects, even though some of the CGI is dated to today's standards, the special effects are still incredible. Like, the animatronics, and like I said, this was one of the first movies to properly use, like, CGI in, like, a big way like this. So, yeah. Dated, but still very good and very iconic. So, yeah, the special effects here are phenomenal. Even though Jurassic Park is my favorite movie of all time, there are still some minor nitpicks I have with this movie. Now, that's just it. They're nitpicks. Like, these are not things that a normal person, like, going into Jurassic Park for the first time would notice. I've seen the movie enough times to where I've noticed these things, and I've thought about these things, and, you know, they're things that I'm, you know, something I feel like I would have done differently. So, yeah, so of course this is the part of, I do this in all my film reviews. I have, an overall negative section, and I have an overall positive section. So, yeah, I think, we're gonna start with the negatives first, because there aren't a lot of negatives I have with this movie, but afterwards we'll get to the positives. So, yeah. First of all, one minor issue I have with Jurassic Park is the fact that Dr. Grant already knows that the T-Rex's vision is based on movement, like, at the beginning of the movie. In the book, Jurassic Park, Dr. Grant finds this out during the T-Rex attack, because he stands still, you know, like, outside the Explorer, and the T-Rex is unable to see him. However, in the movie, Dr. Grant just automatically knows this, which, in my opinion, doesn't make sense. I wish, you know, the movie took the novel route and made it so that, you know, Dr. Grant figures out that, you know, the T-Rex's vision is based on movement during the attack. So that's one minor nitpick I have with Jurassic Park. The age gap between Dr. Grant and Ellie Sattler, I think is very noticeable. In the movie, Dr. Grant and Ellie Sattler are romantically involved. Not married, but they are, you know, seeing each other. And in the movie, Ellie Sattler was in her 20s, and Dr. Grant was in his 40s. Now, I personally think that's a little too big of an age gap. Like, I wish they made Dr. Sattler just a little older in the movie. Then again, while filming Jurassic Park, you know, Sam Neill and Laura Dern didn't really, like, they didn't really think about this. They didn't really, you know, put that much thought into this. They didn't really care. So maybe I'm just overthinking things with this, but I don't know. But either way, that is, like, you know, one other nitpick I have with Jurassic Park. There are some things that don't really make a whole lot of sense either. I think one of the biggest examples of this would be the T-Rex enclosure. Now, the T-Rex is seen breaking out of her enclosure, and, it looks like, the gates are at, like, like surface level. But then later in that scene, it's like automatically a cliff, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, according to the people who worked on Jurassic Park, the T-Rex apparently dragged the Jeep from that spot to like a spot further down, like, the enclosure. So that's where that cliff came from. So the layout of the enclosure is like, like most of it is like at the bottom of a hill, and then like the part where like the goat is raised up and like where the T-Rex is fed, like that's the only way to get a glimpse of the T-Rex, which is horrible. Like, it's a horrible design when it comes to like displaying like animals in like a zoo like environment. Like, I don't know, to me, like, that's just a little dumb, but still, like, again, very minor, and that's not something people are gonna think about when they're watching Jurassic Park. You'd have to watch the movie a good number of times like me to like actually think about these things. And just a few mistakes throughout this movie. There's a shot like in the beginning when the baby raptor is hatching. There's a scene where like the robotic arm is like holding the egg, and then in like the very next shot, it's just gone without explanation. During the the T-Rex escape scene, the Ford Explorer door is left wide open after Gennaro ran out of it. So in like one shot, it's open, and then in the next shot, the door is closed, and then in another shot, the door is open again, which doesn't make sense. And even like the scenes filming the helicopters fly by, you can see cobwebs like in the camera, which is very noticeable, like particularly like towards the end of the movie. You can still see them in the beginning of the movie, but still like you can like really see them like at the end of the movie, and like stuff like that is just very distracting. But like I said, all of those are just like minor nitpicks. Like, no normal person is gonna, if they're watching Jurassic Park for the first time, they're not gonna notice that, first time watching, You'd have to be someone like me who, knows this movie to actually like stop and like think about like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. So, yeah, very minor nitpicks, but still some things that I feel like were worth pointing out. Now, overall positives. The accuracy for the dinosaurs, I think like for the time was like very like up to date, outdated by today's standards, of course, but like at the time, like that was like as accurate as it got. Like they got like paleontologists to like they got them as like consultants for like designing these animals, and I think they look great. I mean, there were some artistic liberties taken, like the Dilophosaurus neck frill. And the raptors, in the movie are based on Deinonychus, but they're called velociraptors instead, and, stuff like that. But for the most part, like, the actual, like, design of the animals, like, again, for the time, like, that was as accurate as it could get. In fact, this is something that I think is really cool. The documentary series Walking with Dinosaurs came out 6 years after Jurassic Park came out. Jurassic Park is slightly more accurate than Walking with Dinosaurs. Yeah, a major Hollywood blockbuster movie has more accurate dinosaurs than a documentary that came out 6 years later. Like, that's kind of crazy to think about. Like, that's something that would never happen in today's day and age. Like, at least as far as, like, dinosaur movies go. Because with movies like 65, you get, like, these, like, crazy, like, monstrous designs. Like, they don't really try as far as, like, being accurate. They're trying to be, like, as cool and edgy as possible, but with Jurassic Park, they actually, like, tried to make these dinosaurs feel like, actual animals, which is what dinosaurs are. Animals, just extinct ones. So, yeah, like, outdated for today's standards, but the accuracy, like, for the time, Jurassic Park was still, like, pretty accurate, so, yeah. Another thing I really like about this movie, as far as, like, an overall positive goes, the dinosaurs themselves, they're not treated like murderous, like monsters that'll just kill you whenever, they see you. They're not like movie monsters. Like, they actually behave like actual animals. Like, the T-Rex, for example. The T-Rex is like tearing up the Ford Explorer, sure, but it's just playing with the Ford Explorers. It's not trying to like get in there and like eat Tim and Lex. The T-Rex, she just sees this like big colorful object near her enclosure, and after she breaks out, she's curious, so she's just playing with it. And you see that in, like, animals today, because, like, like, animals, like, in zoos now, they have, like, toys to play with. And you can kind of see that in, This, or you can kind of see that because, like, again, you see this big, like, colorful, like, flashy object, and the T-Rex has probably never seen this before and is, like, checking it out. It's like playing with it. In the scene where the T-Rex is chasing the Jeep, the T-Rex isn't trying to get the people in the Jeep. The T-Rex is trying to chase the Jeep out of her enclosure, because at one point she, like, stops chasing and just kind of moves on, because, you know, the T-Rex, she managed to chase them out of her enclosure. And even at the end of the movie, when the Raptors are about to attack Dr. Grant, Ellie Sattler, and the kids, you know, of course the T-Rex just comes in, like, you know, she just so happened to be in the area while she was hunting. She saw these raptors, like, distracted, and took that opportunity to hunt them. And you can see, she was about to eat, you know, the raptor she just killed, but she was attacked by, you know, the other raptor that, you know, attacked her for, you know, killing her pack member. So, yeah, like, the animals here are treated with so much respect, and they feel like actual animals. It's not like with the newer Jurassic World movies, where they're just killing for the sake of killing, or just roaring for the sake of being awesome. There's none of that garbage here. Like, the dinosaurs here are treated like actual animals, and again, that's just one of the many things that makes Jurassic Park so magical. Another thing I absolutely love about Jurassic Park, like, the scope of this movie is huge. Like, it is, like, big. Of course, like, the special effects, like, you know, groundbreaking, like, pushing the boundaries as far as, like, you know, what was capable at the time. You know, and, like, just everything, like, going on. Like, these feel like real animals. Like, everything here feels big, you know? And despite being a big movie, it still feels, like, incredibly grounded to reality. Like, all the action in this movie, again, going back to the, you know, horrible Jurassic World movies, it's not people riding around on motorcycles, like, running around shooting dinosaurs, or there's none of that garbage, you know? It's like, these are characters who have never been in certain situations, and the action is them reacting to those situations. Like, these characters, they've never seen a dinosaur before in their lives, so during the T-Rex breakout scene, like, that's them experiencing something like that for the first time. They don't know what they're doing. Or even another noteworthy scene, when Dr. Grant is helping him climb down the tree as the Ford Explorer is, like, slowly kind of, like, coming down towards them. Like, it's like, it feels grounded because, like, these are characters that haven't been in this situation before, and that's them, like, reacting to the environment around them. And again, that's what makes the action in Jurassic Park great. Like, it's like, not only is it really suspenseful, but it's also really grounded. Again, there's no motorcycle chases with, like, raptors in a city or any garbage like that. It's like, it feels real. So yeah, despite being, like, a huge movie, Jurassic Park still feels incredibly grounded. Like, it feels believable, you know. So yeah, that's another great thing about Jurassic Park. Um, and just, like, the sense of, like, awe and wonder that, like, you know, because it's a Spielberg movie, and, you know, there's a lot of that in Spielberg movies, but again, that sense of, like, awe and wonder is just, like, it's just fantastic. Another piece of trivia about Jurassic Park is that, you know, originally, when writing the book, Michael Crichton wanted something, you know, like, similar to, you know, the actual movie, something, like, that was awe-inspiring and more, like, kind of whimsical, but none of his publishers would have, like, published the book, so he made it darker and edgier, and that's what made his publishers publish it, and that actually got translated into the movie. Another thing I love about Jurassic Park is that it is a movie for everyone. There are multiple different genres in this movie. Of course, like, you have your sense of philosophy, you know, you have, you know, Ian Malcolm explaining about how, like, you know, trying to control nature in such a way is not good, and very subtle symbolisms in the movie. Um, for example, I meant to talk about this earlier, but I didn't. In the beginning of the movie, when they're on the helicopter and they're landing, there's a scene where Dr. Grant, he can't find the other part of his seat buckle. He only has, like, two of the same end. However, what he does is he just, like, ties it up, so he found a way. Now, one of the biggest thing, you know, like, one of the most memorable quotes in this movie, life finds a way, that's foreshadowing, because all the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park are female. Towards the end of the movie, it is discovered that the dinosaurs are breeding, despite being all female. The reason why they're breeding is because the frog DNA in their DNA, they were used from West African frogs. Now, some West African frogs have been known to change gender in a single-sex environment. So the dinosaurs are changing their genders in a single-sex environment. So, again, that little bit with the seatbelt buckle towards the beginning of the movie, that's like foreshadowing to the dinosaurs, like, you know, changing their gender, life finding a way. You know, so like you do have your sense of philosophy there. Again, the action, like I was talking about, like very suspenseful action, but still very grounded and still very believable. Of course, you have your horror elements, you know, like the raptors in the kitchen. You know, that's a very like suspenseful and very just a very like intense scene as far as like, you know, horror goes. Drama, again, just like the scene remembering Petticoat Lane, where John Hammond is talking about how he originally had a flea circus, but he wanted to make something like real and something you could like feel and touch. And even a bit of comedy, you know, mostly from Ian Malcolm and Dennis Nedry, but still, you do have some comedic moments. So there's a lot of like, you know, different genres in this movie, and again, this just makes this movie more universal. Like, this is a movie for everyone that everyone will enjoy. One last positive that I want to talk about, and this one might be the most controversial, is that this movie is actually different from the book. Now, in case I haven't made it clear yet, Jurassic Park, the movie, is based on a book by Michael Crichton, and a lot of people say that the book is better. And though I can understand where they're coming from, I don't like the movie more. I think the book and the movie, I think they're equal, right? Like, they're both different enough, but like they're the same story, but they're different enough to where like they can be kind of counted as like their own thing. And some people might say like, "Oh, well, that's lame," but honestly, I think it's refreshing. You know, I think it's I like that sense of wonder, you know, the movie went with. Like, the book had more of like an R rating, while the movie is like PG-13, which again makes the movie more like universal for like, you know, people who see the movie, or Universal, like Universal Studios, get it. Anyway, yeah, no, but it's just like, yeah, so there are differences like I wish they stuck with, like the, you know, T-Rex's vision being based on movement, like that sort of thing, like I mentioned earlier, but for the most part, like, the movie makes enough changes to where, like, I think it can be considered as, like, its own thing, and I think it works better in some cases for it. So, yeah, some people might say the difference between the movie and the book are, like, it's too much and the movie should have been closer to the book. I think, like, the differentiation, I think, is, like, perfect, because, like I said, like, it's the same story, but there are enough differences to where, like, it can be considered, like, their own different things, and I think, like, it works really well. Like, the book is great, but the movie is also great. So, yeah. In conclusion, there's a reason why this movie is still being celebrated 30 years later, still generating merchandise, video games, and one good sequel. The less said about the other sequels, the better. Jurassic Park is an iconic piece of cinema that was a huge turning point for not just the filmmaking industry, but for paleontology as well. You know, and it continues to be one of the greatest movies of all time. You know, a few minor, like, nitpicks I have with the movie, but Jurassic Park is still and will always be my favorite movie of all time. So Jurassic Park definitely gets a solid 10 out of 10 from me. So, yeah. Anyway, that is it for today. Have a great rest of your week. Happy birthday, Jurassic Park, and I will see you in the next video. Peace, Zack out.